Wolfpack, what's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 5 Waiver Wire and Fab show. And this week, compared to last week where we were hyping up like Peyton Barber top 5 on this list, we actually have some really good options on the Week 5 Waiver Wire. So come on in. Let's talk about these guys. I'm not even going to give you like the first check type of thing because we have 15 guys that are out there in over half of leagues that we need to dive into, including who I think could be a genuine league winner this season. So come on in again. Give us that thumbs up if you don't mind. Help us get out to more people. Share the link out. I know there's been some issues with seeing Facebook comments. I hope I can get them today. I don't know what's exactly going on with there, but get your questions on into who can you cut, how much fab should you spend, all that good stuff. That's why I do the live show, to customize the answers, and feel free to comment them in after the show, and I'll do my best I can to get to them all afterwards. But thank you guys again so much for being here. Let's dive right in. My number one pickup, and I don't think you're going to find a pickup quite like this the rest of the season. That's Trey Lance, 31% rostered, so nearly 70% available. I think you have to spend it all, especially if you need a QB on this guy. An absolute league winner potential. Garoppolo was saying he's hopeful to be just out a couple of weeks with his calf injury. I guess it's not an Achilles tear or anything serious like that, but it is serious enough that 2 weeks is kind of his best case scenarios. Granted, they do have the week 6 bye looming, so it might just be week 5, week 6 bye, and then, back to the bench for Trey Lance. I don't expect that, though. The guy gets the Cardinals shootout potential this week, kind of like an audition game for him, and his first meaningful action really was pretty damn spectacular. 9 of 18, not great, looking pretty skittish, some pretty rough throws, and yet he still racked up 157 yards in the air and 2 TDs in just about a half of action. That's 20 fantasy points and a half. That's why you've been raving about the guy. 7 carries, 41 yards on the ground. That's what we loved. Beautiful stuff. And yes, a lot of those yards, a lot of that one of the big touchdowns came on a broken coverage to Deebo Samuel. But I still think, this guy has all the makings of the stud. We saw that in this action. Some of the negatives, they're all saying nobody wanted him to be out there yet. This is not what the plan was. Kyle Shanahan said it looked like a typical first game. That's why he's a number 2 quarterback. So kind of re-emphasizing it's probably still Jimmy's job if he gets healthy. But if Trey Lance comes and just opens a new level of offense in week 5, and they're going to need that against the Cardinals, I would not be shocked to just see the keys handed on over to him. Either way, it's worth all the fab to see. Should he be the guy the rest of the season? I think he does win it over, and I think he is this year's Mahomes if and when that happens. So blow the load, go get the guy. He's my number 1 pickup. Number 1 pickup on most lists is probably going to be Damien Williams. 10% rostered right now. I think he's well worth blowing 25 to 30% of your fab. A big amount, but we just found out that David Montgomery expected to be out 4 to 5 weeks. Most likely they have a week 10 bye. Probably going to hold him out through that bye. That gives you a long stretch of starts for Damien Williams, who handled 6 straight touches after David Montgomery went out. It is his job. He did get a thigh bruise, got knocked out for a little bit. Khalil Herbert came in, and he might even be an interesting pickup should anything happen to Williams. But it's reports from Ian Rapsheet saying he's going to be okay. He's going to practice all week and probably be handling every single touch. He's a great receiver, can run the routes. Great is probably an overstatement, but he can run the entire route tree. He's played in Matt Nagy's offense before. That's what the offense he was in the playoffs, where he became a genuine fantasy league winner and a genuine real-life league winner for the Chiefs. So this guy does have some upside. Of course, this is not the Chiefs offense, but under Bill Lazor, this was a big switch. We saw Bill Lazor take over yet again this week. They averaged nearly 30 points per game under Bill Lazor compared to like 14 per game for Matt Nagy. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it is a insane discrepancy. Most importantly, Bill Lazor just feeds the running game and gets these guys going. No wonder we saw David Montgomery have his best game of the year this last week. He's going to be facing Damien Williams, the Raiders, who have allowed at least 1 touchdown to a running back in every single game. Good bet to extend that streak for Damien Williams. Then you get the Packers, 4 touchdowns in their last 4 games. Good, easy schedule these next couple of weeks. It does stiffen up a little bit for those last few, but if he's rolling, expect him to be an every down back. I could see him being like this year's Mike Davis after, again, much lighter than that because Christian McCaffrey's role and offense was significantly more valuable, but we're going to see 15, 20 touches a week. So Damien Williams, if you're desperate at running back, pack up those brink trucks, baby. Go all in to go get him. Kenneth Gainwell, more of a long-term stash than Damien Williams, but that long tail might be significantly more rewarding just because this player is looking dynamite right now, outplaying Miles Sanders in back-to-back weeks. This week, far more indicative, 3 carries, 31 yards, bam, sexy clip right there. But more importantly, 8 targets, 6 catches, 58 yards, and he got into the end zone. He's a clear-cut preferred option in 2-minute offense, no-huddle offense, and also in the red zone. Does that mean Miles Sanders just a between-the-20s plotter? 7 carries, 13 yards, pathetic 3 catches, 34. Okay, pretty decent clip on the catches, but still, only 4 targets. It's definitely the Gainwell show in passing situations. It seems to be clear they really trust him and prefer him in those options. Tim McManus, ESPN's saying this is creeping closer to a timeshare and will stay that way unless Sanders starts busting loose. Well, he doesn't seem to be busting loose anytime soon. I'm a Sanders owner, so I'd love to have some better bias as I did coming into the year once I got stuck with him at a draft. But this is looking like Gainwell might emerge as the most valuable back. We've seen Sanders take 60% of the snaps. He's still technically the lead horse. But from the touches standpoint, from the value of the touches standpoint, that's trending towards Gainwell right now. My number 3 pickup, blow 15% or more to go get him. Now, a more potential startable right from the bat. That's Darnell Mooney. Got dropped in a ton of leagues last week after Justin Fields' disappointing performance. Much better bounce back effort from the rookie. 4th highest rate of going deep with 20-plus yards downfield. 17.3, nearly 20% of his passes are traveling deep. That is great news for Mooney, who saw 11 targets this last week, 30% of the target share, 73.5 air yards over the last 2 games on average. I think this is a nice 10% bid you got to go put on this guy. He had a nice effort with all those targets too. 125 TD line. And now he's gone from 20% and 41% target share these past 2 weeks compared to Allen Robinson, who went 30% to now 17%. He's outplaying, outproducing, looking just like a better rapport with Justin Fields than Allen Robinson has right now. So Darnell Mooney could be an every week wide receiver 3 moving forward. If you get too high in the bidding, just be careful because Andy Dalton will start as soon as he's ready, at least according to Matt Nagy. But if Justin Fields has a couple more positive outings like we saw this last week, maybe that trend reverses itself. Samaje Perine, in terms of immediately usable running backs behind only Damien Williams on this week's waiver wire. In that sense, only 3% rostered. So if you miss out on Williams, this is not a bad consolation prize if you're RB needy. That's because Joe Mixon is week to week. Last year, he got designated as week to week. He did not return. I don't expect that this year. The Bengals are much more competitive. No reason to shut him down for the year unless he truly needs it. And I don't think he truly needs it. He came off with an ankle injury in the last couple drives of the game. As soon as he came out, we saw Samaje Perine come right in there and become the main workhorse. 4 straight touches for him over Chris Evans. He's out-touched Evans now 12-3 on the year. He's run 21 routes compared to 9 for the rookie. So Perine does have that edge. And last year, his 1 game above 10 carries, actually in his career, at least for the Bengals wise, he had 13 carries for 94 yards, 2 TDs, Samaje Perine did. 4 catches on his 4 targets for 41 yards. This came against Houston, who was an absolute sev, gave up 1,000,000 yards and points to running backs last year. But even still, the guy had some juice. I know he gets the reputation as a ridiculous, fat, slow plotter, and he's not much more than that. But he does have monster game potential. He gets the Packers and the Lions in his next 2 games. Some solid upside there. Nice, streamable guy. If you assume that Mixon misses 2 weeks, he'll be worth about 15 to 20% of your fab budget. Go for Williams first. Certainly go for Gainwell if you don't need the immediate usability and you'd rather have the sheer upside for it. But otherwise, Samaje Perine, my number 3 running back and number 5 overall on my fab and waiver wire rankings. Again, guys, if you don't mind hitting that thumbs up button, helping us get out to more people would be so appreciated so we can continue to grow the pack as we rip through these and get those questions in. I see we got about 10 so far. Love to answer 30 questions or so. So keep them coming. Let's get all your waiver wire needs, trade needs, everything in there. And let's get to number 6 on this list. And certainly, as I always like to say, if you need a tight end, bump this guy up to the top of the list. Yes, these are my overall rankings for how I would just take them in a vacuum. But of course, your team need does have to play a factor into waiver wire, into your roster construction and who you target and how much you spend. So let's get to Dawson Knox. He is the tight end 5 on the year. The list of tight ends that have more touchdowns than Dawson Knox, yeah, that's it. Nobody. He is leading the NFL in touchdowns for tight ends right now. 15.7% target share, 79% route rate. That is he was like running a route on about half of the dropbacks last year. That's insane. He's now been a top 12 tight end in 3 straight weeks, seeing 10 points, 14.9, and then 20.7. Red zone monster for this guy. The best part is, even in neutral scripts, they're going second fastest. Even when they're ahead by big, they go 5th fastest in those situations, and they're the fastest offense when they are trailing. It's a ridiculous. They average a play like every 18 seconds when they're trailing. So this is a pass-happy attack no matter what is happening. And Dalton Schultz has a very clear role above, let's say, a Gabriel Davis, above anyone else. He's really carved out that role behind maybe only Manny Sanders and, of course, Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley when it's a tough script. But as a red zone option, he might be their number 1 guy. So Dawson Knox, a big boost up. And another top 10 potential tight end on your waiver wire right now, the tight end 1 and tight end 4 the last couple weeks. That's Dalton Schultz, 35% rostered, 8 to 10% fab, in my opinion, maybe even worth more than that. Because we always thought, 2 weeks ago it was just a kind of anomaly game. Him and Blake Jarwin are going to constantly nibble each other's cheese, right? Well, this week he ran, Dalton Schultz, 23 routes on the 29 dropbacks compared to just 10 for Blake Jarwin. Yes, Jarwin did catch a touchdown. That's the annoying part. But we've now seen Schultz go for 28% target share to 36.4% target share in his 2 games with Dak so far. Dak's loving the guy. And why not? He's sure-handed. He's steady. He's looking like a monster after the catch, bowling his way into the end zone. Schultz is a top 10 tight end moving forward. I'd rather have Knox if given the options. But if he's not out there, Schultz is another great pickup for you tight end needy folks. And if you don't have Travis Kelce and a couple others, you're probably in that bandwagon of tight end needy. So check out Knox, check out Dalton Schultz if you're desperate for a tight end. I'd probably rather have him than Kyle Pitts. Let's just throw that out there for the season. Both of those guys. J.D. McKissic, another just season-long, pretty usable running back compared to like Perine, Damien Williams, who will only have a short burst of value. McKissic could be valuable the rest of the year. It is going to be tricky to figure out what weeks are the ones he's going to spike. But over his last 3, he had a complete dud. But he's also mixed in a 20.3 point effort and a 16.9 most recently this last week to Atlanta. And with the team averaging 30.5 points allowed to opponents right now, they're going to have no choice but to continue to remain pass happy. We've seen we all wished, fantasy owners, that it would have been Antonio Gibson taking all these 3rd down snaps and the Christian McCaffrey light role we all were hoping for. Not happening. McKissic is still dominating all the receiving work, and he now has a 12.1% target share. He's been a top 14 PPR guy in those 2 spike weeks we just talked about in 2 of his 3 last contests. 16.5 routes per contest. 5th among running backs in receiving yards. He is not quite where he was last year, where he led the NFL in running back targets, was 2nd in receiving yardage among the position, but still not all that far off. And it means anything. They're 2 wins other than the wins they fed him the most. Just of note there for him. So J.D. McKissic, if you're running back needy, not a bad guy to be stashing right now and to be potentially deploying. Randal Cobb at wide receiver, one of my favorite wide receivers for the week. In fact, other than Mooney, my number 2 receiver right now, only played 46% of the snaps. That's like the one negative I want to get out of the way, but the damage he did on 46%, pretty damn impressive, and that number could continue to rise. 5 catches, 69 yards, not 1, but 2 TDs, 24.0% threat rate. I mean, pretty big piece of this offense. In fact, after the game, the Athletic beat writer speculated Cobb could unlock Green Bay's offense, the skeleton key for Green Bay. Randal Cobb, who would have seen it, folks? But it might just be the case for this guy. Solid usage, solid player that just obviously we saw Aaron Rodgers pine for the guy. Make sure we get Randal Cobb, and this is the potential reason. You saw a lot of his connections came on broken plays. Rodgers was scrambling, and then bam, zipped it in, and Cobb just struck his way right into the end zone. So intriguing guy. Of course, it's still Adam's show, but with MVS out, this was an encouraging first game, and MVS is expected to head to the IR. Multiple more, touchdowns could be headed Randal Cobb's way. Another old receiver you'd think would dust heading into the year, but wait on a little bit, is AJ Green. 24% rostered. I think he's worth 6 to 8% of your fab. He has double-digit performances in 3 straight weeks. He seems to be carving out I love Christian Kirk and probably prefer Kirk just because he's so much younger and a better talent and can have the 30-point days. But Green is carving himself a meaningful role, especially in the red zone right now, hauling in touchdowns. He had 67 yards and a TD this last week on 5 catches. Not bad. Drawing 6 targets was the the team high. And that's like the rub here. 6 targets is a team high. That's kind of scary because it's just such a spread out offense. It's so explosive. But this is one of those offenses you just want any piece of. So AJ Green maybe looks old and unsexy. Sneaky, usable these last 3 weeks. And I think moving forward against teams like the 49ers where I think points are always going to be at a premium for them because their defense is not great, these Cardinals. And this is just going to be shootout central often this year. So I like AJ Green as my next highest receiver as a potential pickup. Sam Darnold, only lower on this list because QBs aren't a priority. In terms of like actual value he might bring to your team, he'd be in the top 5 here. Because guess what? He leads the NFL of all players right now in rushing touchdowns. 5 of them on the season. Insane. He sits at the quarterback 5 overall because of this output. He's put up 25 points in back-to-back games, over 30 this last week. This Joe Brady offense is unlocking everything we've ever hoped for Sam Darnold. It's hit its peak. We talked about the zone option being a big thing for Teddy Bridgewater potentially last year. Darnold's the one that's actually executing it to perfection. It's like their go-to goal line play, and it continues to work. I don't think it's a fluke at all. It's not something that is unsustainable. Yeah, he's not going to run for 15 touchdowns on the season or anything crazy like that, but he might get to 7, 8, and he's already at 5, right? So probably 8 to 9, maybe even 10 for Darnold, given how well they execute that. DJ Moore just lighting it up. This is sustainable. This does not feel fake at all. If you're desperate for a quarterback, I know I say 6 to 8% of your fab, he'd be worth 20% if you need a QB at a bad clip. Had a sneeze. Latavius Murray, 48% rostered, so he's probably not out there in leagues, but I did see him get dropped by a lot of people, rightfully so, frustrated with that backfield for the Ravens. Well, Tyson Williams, after playing over half the snaps after being the starter for 3 straight weeks, is now healthy and active. And that opened up a clear-cut starting role, clear-cut workhorse role for Latavius Murray. He handled 78.3% of the running back rushes. That's the highest of any Raven all season, and pretty much over the last couple of years because they've always been around a 60-40 split between Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, whoever else has been there. So that was a monstrous performance volume-wise. Now, he didn't do a whole ton with it. 59 yards on those 18 carries, did find the end zone, did have 51 yards after contact, so he's getting kind of decked in the backfield and making some stuff happen. Looking pretty decent, though. Bell back to the practice squad, might get elevated again. But just in case Murray got dropped, some usable in one of the run-heaviest offenses in the league. He's averaging like a touchdown a week at this point. Worth a stash for sure. Daniel Jones. Can't believe I'm saying it, but 31% rostered. Another great quarterback out there in a lot of leagues. 5 to 6% of your fab, in my opinion. He's the quarterback 6. Darnold was the QB 5. Daniel Jones, the QB 6. What is going on in the NFL this year? I do not know. Craziness. But he had 400 yards, finished as the quarterback 7 this past week, and that happened with only 4 scrambles. He has 27 carries, which is 3rd among the quarterbacks in the NFL. So you got that kind of Danny Jones, Konami upside. He's actually sneaky athletic. One of my favorites bet every week is the Daniel Jones rushing prop. He had 90 rushing yards just a couple weeks ago. I mean, the guy can run, but now we're also seeing him get on his arm. 400 yards without Sterling Shepard, without Darius Slayton. Kenny Galladay emerging, Kadarius Toney looking like the speed of a first rounder that you'd want to see. 79 yards on 6 catches, 9 targets. Like, if everybody comes back healthy, he's going to have a plethora of weapons on a team that is moving the ball at a good clip. And his fantasy matchups are getting friendlier and friendlier as the season goes. Never mind the fact that Saquon Barkley, 2 scores, looking like he is back into Saquon form, especially as a dynamite receiver. All good stuff for Daniel Jones. A good week if you need a quarterback. There are lots of guys out there, and him being the second best option, in my opinion, other than, of course, Sam Darnold. Hunter Renfrow, back-to-back weeks finding the end zone, only 27% roster. I think he's worth 6 to 9% of your fab. He is now averaging 7.5 targets per game this season as their slot guy. He is behind. He led the team in targets with 8 this last week over Darren Waller. Insanity. It seems to me like he's going to be the steadiest receiver here compared to Ruggs, compared to Bryan Edwards, even though those guys have way more sizzle. Take the steak, take the actual meat on the bone. That is with Hunter Renfrow right now. He's running the 4th most routes on the team, but still getting it done. He's the wide receiver 26 across these last 4 games, seeing 6 targets and 5 catches in every game so far this year. Certainly plenty more ceiling out there for you, but On the shallow waters, if you need something usable, quality high floor there with Hunter Renfrow. And again, guys, we round out these last two guys and then some stashes for you. That thumbs up will help us get out to more people. 20 questions right now. Love to see it. Continue getting them in. We'll get to all of those after I wrap these up. But again, thumbs up helps us get to more people. Either subscribe, hit the bell so you're always ready to be live with us here as we go. Last two here. Van Jefferson. If you're looking for ceiling over Renfrow, this is the guy that has it. 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a T. Led the Rams in all 3 categories this last week, despite the loss. He is now seen 4.5 targets per game, running around on 83% of Stafford's dropbacks. He's the guy. Yeah, we see Deshaun Jackson have a big week every now and again, but Van Jefferson is routinely out there and running the deep routes. Also has that kind of handcuff with benefits upside. Like he's a guy that you can use certainly right now, given the upside he's shown. Yet, if anything happens to Woods or, God forbid, Cooper Kupp, MVP of fantasy right now, Van Jefferson would immediately be an every week wide receiver 3. So I really like stashing this guy. He's seen a 13.4% target share compared to 18.7% for Woods. Yet Jefferson's averaging more points per game, 11.9 compared to 11.5 for Woods. I wonder if that switches at some point. Remember, Jefferson was handpicked by this team, and he's looking damn good so far. So one of the guys I love on this. I mean, this is crazy week. Like last week, he would have been number 1, and he's number 15 on this list. This is a very deep waiver wire week, guys. So get your money ready. This is a good week to be spending, good week to be buying, good week to wake up at like 4 a.m. and check who's left out there by your league mates, because there's going to be plenty of good scraps out there. And last but not least, in terms of startability, maybe least, but quarterback-wise, again, another great name, Taylor Heinicke, has put up 20 or more fantasy points in every start, nearly 30 points this last week after he went 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, also added 5 rushes for 43 yards. Another sneaky Konami guy. He's kind of like a younger Fitzpatrick. He makes plays that make you hold your breath, think he's going to just ruin the game. And then he makes these unbelievable cross-body throws, scrambling, that somehow get completed in the end zone for touchdowns. It's fun to watch. It's fun to root for. He's got a great weapons cabinet. You saw Terry McLaurin go off for 2 scores, McKissic getting open for a ton of yards after the catch. It's just it's an offense that's going to generate points. They're going to need to generate points, as we mentioned, 30.5 points against all year. They're going to need their points. And so Taylor Heinicke, a low end, there's just so many that you can fit this like low end starter bill. He's definitely like a high end QB2. They have QB2 leagues. If he's out there, you got to go scoop him up as fast as you can. Now, in terms of stashes, I'm just going to keep mentioning Jeff Wilson, who's still somehow 19, 20% rostered. I'm going to scream this guy from the mountaintops. Like, he's going to be off your PUP or IR in a couple weeks. And it's clear there's no Sermon yet. 89 yards on 18 carries looks okay. I'm telling you, Jeff Wilson's going to be the guy. He was the guy last year by the end of the season, led the team in rushing yards, in rushing touchdowns. Was actually 10th in the NFL in rushing touchdowns last year. I've said that stat 5 straight weeks, and yet he still remains out there in so many leagues. The number 1 stash for me is Jeff Wilson, especially if you have an IR spot. But after that, Rhamondre Stevenson, I'm telling you, I know there's nothing to go off of. He didn't play this last week. He was a healthy scratch behind J.J. Taylor, despite the team losing James White. Not encouraging. Is encouraging. J.J. Taylor had 2 touches and he fumbled 1, was not heard from again. Piece of trash. Cut him off your teams if you ended up rostering him. And go for Stevenson. Like, he's not James White by any means, but he can pass protect. He is an adept receiver. Is pretty good in college. And he led the league in preseason rushing. Looked like the next young stud. Sure, he fumbled it away in week 1, but the team's going to have to go back to him eventually at some point. Especially what if something happens to Damien Harris? You could be looking at a true 3-down back here for the Pats. So at 12% rostered, you can't use him right now. But I really, just in my gut, I have this feeling Rhamondre Stevenson's going to come through huge over the last half of this fantasy season. So give him a look if you need some rostering upside at the running back position. 3 more stashes. Rashod Bateman, another guy we talk about nearly every week. He's going to be activated off the IR probably as early as this week. So that makes him a guy you definitely want to go out and find. He plays a different role than anyone these Ravens currently have rostered. A great move the chains, possession style receiver that they are lacking right now. Remember, Stephon Diggs comparison, 95 percentile, and J.J. Zacharyason's model, which has been highly predictive. I love everything this Rashod Bateman kid can do. He's going to bring a new element to this offense that have been sorely lacking. Only 14% rostered. Get ahead of the crowd. Go get him. He's going to have like 4 catches for 50 yards in the next week. And everyone's going to sprint to get him before his next blow up. Beat the crowd. Go get him now. Josh Gordon, more often rostered than Bateman. I don't think that's the right move, but still worth rostering. He's going to probably be activated They're saying definitely from the practice squad this weekend. That should carry over into the game. You look over and see the fact that Demarcus Robinson, McCole Hardman, Byron Pringle, well, one, just the names. What else do you have to see? They're this cast of creatures. They've combined for 5 targets on 59 routes last week. Mahomes for 5 touchdowns. These guys did nothing. Let's get Josh Gordon in there. They need him clearly. Tyreek Hill, yeah, he shook free for a ton of scores this week, but teams are able to lock in on this guy and take him out in 2 of the 4 games. If you put out Josh Gordon, he's any type of explosiveness in that left. That might not be the case anymore. You can't just double Kelsey, double Tyreek if you have a guy like Josh Gordon out there. So intriguing stash for sure. An offense that sorely needs him. The one place that could probably carve out value, as many of you are probably commenting right now. Please, Wolf, stop telling me to smoke crack. It's bad for me. Josh Gordon, yes, he's horrible for your health, but still such a rush while you have the option. So potentially consider it. And last stash here is Alex Collins, and I want to give that a big WTF. Why? Is this the case? I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it as a Chris Carson truther here, but Carson played 45% of snaps compared to 39% for Alex Collins, 14 touches for Carson compared to 12 for Carson compared to 12 for Collins. Near even split between these two guys, and Collins looked significantly better. He saw 40 yards and a TD on his carries or 44 yards rather on his 10 carries in a TD versus 30 yards, no score for Chris Carson. Brutal game if you owned Carson. Tough stuff. They did come out and say, the beat writer, The Athletic's Michael Sean Duggar, did say he's unlikely to carve out a larger role in the backfield. He said that arose after the veteran rushed 10 times, 44 yards at a TD in the Seahawks Week 4 win. They asked him, is this going to be a thing all year? And he said no. Could it be? Sure. Do I think it's likely? No. But that's just speculation. He looked better than Carson. If that continues, we've seen Pete Carroll just flip on the dime. That's the reason Carson's a thing anyways, because he flipped on a dime. They went to him. So Collins worth stashing, certainly if you own Chris Carson, because he'd be the number one handcuff to come in. Nearly 30 questions already. Let's get this going, Wolfpack. Love to see it. It's up here on Facebook. Yes, we got the Facebook comments coming in tonight. Love to see it. Love to see you, Denny Jennings, as well as Mitch Chavez. Sorry to miss you guys last night. I saw there were questions and comments coming in, but they did not pop up on the StreamYard with whatever was happening on Facebook. What's up, Preble? And again, guys, that thumbs up as we get settled in for these questions. Let's get through them all. But the thumbs up does help us get out to more people as we answer these for you guys. Thoughts about when Tyreek Cohen comes back week 7 for the Bears? I think it's worth looking into, Dan Jennings. I think that's actually a deeper league move that not a lot of people are talking about. He was such an explosive weapon just 2 seasons ago for them. One of the most dynamite fantasy players. I think top 12 in fantasy points per game in PPR leagues. But we also haven't seen that in a while. Coming off a big surgery. I'm not saying you have to go sprint out and get him, but you have the space. Certainly if you can put him in your IR, not a bad guy to toss out there. Wes Cup, what's up, brother? Pick one for me to cry into after starting 1-3 and 2-3. Awful. Whiskey, Bush Ice, $7 Mezcal. $7 Mezcal, baby. I'm all about the Mezcal. Smoky, love the tequila. But Wes, I hate to hear that, man, because you've been a Wolfpack faithful. I hope we haven't steered you too wrong. It's just a case of bad luck. But if we have, I owe you some apologies for that, if so, because I love you, Wes. You've been a great fan. And I hope I haven't led you astray. Let us know if we have. Let me hear it. Let me know where we led you wrong so we can continue to be better for you. Francisco, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Raise his hand. You're always welcome to raise that hand and come in here. Who else hates Matt Nagy? Yeah, I can put that hand up, 2 hands up for that one. Awful, awful player. Nagy is making it hard for people to believe in Fields, which as I type this is the most mental state. Yeah, exactly right. Maybe it is Gase 2.0, honestly. We need more Bill Lazor in our lives. Get rid of Matt Nagy. Because Justin Fields is an insane talent. Some of these throws he made last week, you're like, why are we not uncorking it 30 times a game with this guy? So I believe in Fields. I know it's a Nagy problem at this point. Let's hope he's gone sooner than later. Dylan Adams traded Keenan Allen, Javonte, and Hines and acquired CMC and Pittman. Oh, yeah. Absolutely a great trade. Anytime you get CMC for pennies on the dollar like that, Hines, useless. Javonte, I do like, but, no guarantee. Keenan Allen, okay. But CMC all day. Love that. And you have some good guys coming back on IR. I think it's a league-winning potential move there for you, Dylan. Ended up going 1 and 2. Eckler carry. Yeah, Eckler's an absolute stud, Schneider, huh? Absolute stud. Picked up Collins last week and you got offered Kirk for him. I'd probably prefer Kirk unless you really need the running back presence there, Michael Schneider's. Schultz or Andrews this week? Man, Dylan, that's tough given how good Schultz is looking right now. I always save the sit start questions for tomorrow because I haven't looked at matchups, haven't ranked my guys yet. My guess is I'd still be going Andrews because he's been pretty solid, all things considered, these last few weeks. But I mean, Schultz has been damn good. Tight end 1, tight end 4. I'll have to check it tomorrow. If you're here for the ranking show, I'll give you a better answer. I'm sure I'll see you before Sunday at some point, Dylan. I hope so. I'm a Mixon owner on bench. I have Pollard, Gainwell, Sermon. Pick 1. Waiver toss, so no Williams or Perine for you. Also have JT. Well, JT's good stuff. So you have to, are you saying pick 1 to drop or pick 1 to start? Oh yeah, because you're not getting those guys. So you're saying you have to start one. Again, Daniel, I don't know exact matchups right now. I'm leaning Sermon unless Mitchell's back. That's my early gut call, but I'll be back with better rankings as of tomorrow. Drop Beasley and Shenault for Crowder. Half PPR, and is Curtis Samuel worth holding on to? I actually should have mentioned Crowder on tonight's show, Giuseppe. He had a huge day. I don't know why I didn't. Led the team in targets. That was an oversight. I should have talked about Jamison Crowder. In fact, let me pull up Jamison Crowder's stats here, week 4 stock watch. I'm going to just type in a quick note, a quick banner. I appreciate your guys' patience here. Jamison Crowder overlooked, only 20% rostered. So overlooked by me, overlooked by many. Why don't we talk about Jamison Crowder real quick, and then I'll get right back to your questions, folks. Thank you, Giuseppe, for tossing that name out there. Jamison Crowder. How did I overlook this guy? Did I not? I thought I wrote about him. Maybe not. I thought I had something ready. I know he led the team in targets. Let me just pull up. I thought I had him saved. Maybe this is why I just completely forgot to save him on my document here. Thank you guys for your patience, because Jamison Crowder, I definitely think, deserves to be highlighted in a waiver ranking show. Remember last year, there was a stretch where he was a top 5 receiver to begin the year. We know that Zach Wilson has loved targeting his slot so far. Braxton Berrios was their top guy in receiving targets until Crowder came back. He had 7 of 9 targets, 61 yards, and a score. And that's, again, that trend of the slot snaps. 21 targets in the previous 3 games for Berrios, was leading the team with that. So, yeah, I mean, Crowder doesn't have these crazy deep targets, but he has always been a pretty good guy on in the red zone. And now you get a Falcons secondary in week 5. That's a viable start for Jamison Crowder this week. So he's overlooked. Should have had him probably my top 15 for sure. I mean, do I prefer Van Jefferson, Renfrow? Like maybe, but Crowder's certainly up there with those guys. I would prefer Shenault here, Giuseppe. He would have been my guy if I had done like a check for first. He's dropped in a lot of leagues, and now that he's going to be going deep more with DJ Chark hurt, I like Shenault more, but I'd rather Crowder over Samuel probably is where I'd lean. I'd probably prefer Beasley, though, over Crowder or Samuel. Need to drop 1. Claypool, Jacoby Myers, Miles Sanders, or Javonte Williams. Why, Riley? Why do you have to drop 1? Like all these guys, dare I say it's Claypool? It might be Miles Sanders. I mean, it could be. But as soon as you drop him, Sarri's going to have like a 100-yard, 2 TD game. So I might go Claypool. That Big Ben offense is just atrocious. Mr. Wolf, you're 4 for 4 in my lineup of questions. I'm glad to hear it, Bill Jagier. Nail the Damian Harris sit. Think he cements a consistent ROS role. I do. I talked about this on the Risers Fallers last week. He ran 17 routes, the most of the Patriots running backs last week, the most of his career. If he becomes a 3-down stud, would be amazing. Now, I'm worried about the offensive line for sure, but his schedule, the easiest running back schedule from here to the rest of the year, I feel pretty good about Harris, especially if he can cover out that 3-down role, which it looked like that could be an option moving forward. So I feel good about him, particularly in the right matchups like Houston this week. Feel very good there. This Fournette must start now, says the end. Only when Gio Bernard's out. When Gio Bernard's out, you saw it. 82% of the snaps. When Gio Bernard's in, he's like a 50% snap guy, and it becomes a 3-headed nightmare. So as long as Gio's out, yes, Fournette is a must start, in my opinion, in the end. Fields droppable? I think so, Jeremiah, just because he's never going to be used the right way under Matt Nagy. So, yeah, I would. Darnold or Hurts is my QB1. I got to go Hurts there, Dylan Adams. The guy's been a stud. Like, even in his worst weeks, he's had over 20 fantasy points. He hasn't been under 20 this entire year. So, yeah, Darnold's looking good, especially a big week here. It definitely depends on the matchups, too. I think you can play the matchup game with there. Like Hurts last week was the clear better start although Darnold might have ended up scoring him, but facing the Chiefs, he had a monster narrative and he performed over 28 fantasy points. Darnold did have over 30 fantasy points, so I guess Darnold was the better play. But you play the matchup cards with there. I think you hold them all. But if it's one or the other, it hurts for me the rest of the season. Danny Jennings agrees, even though he's biased Eagles fan. Not taking him out of the lineups until his bye week. Yeah, I agree. I think most weeks he's going to be the guy. Would you drop Ayuk for Renfrow? Asked Preble. Oh, boy, that's a tough one. I mean, Renfrow's probably more startable, but Ayuk, especially if it's just a bench play, Ayuk still has the upside here. Debo is as good as he's looked. Certainly a risk for injury, as is George Kittle. I think they're going to need Ayuk sooner than later. So I would probably prefer holding on to Ayuk. If you need the immediate start, though, it is Renfrow. But I go Ayuk in most cases there. Claypool for me. So, yeah, you agree with me, Dylan. Okay, good to see. So you agree that Claypool is the easy drop there for Sarah Riley. Should I put D-Knox in for next week instead of Kittle? I mean, crazy we're asking that question. And honestly, it's not insane because they're facing the Chiefs. They're going to need touchdowns. And who's scoring more touchdowns than anybody? Dawson Knox. Most touchdowns in the league among tight ends. Honestly, might be ahead of Kittle in my rankings this next week. I forget they're facing the 49ers, facing the Cardinals. Oh, easy matchup too, though, for Kittle. But Kittle might be, I believe it when I see it type of play. Chenault with Chark being out. Yeah, so you agree with me again, Dylan, on the top pickup there. Mari questionable. Should I put in Tyler Boyd or AJ Green? If Amari plays, I think you keep him in. If not, I think it's Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins is going to be back, so that makes it a little bit riskier. But as of right now, I'm going to go Tyler Boyd. Theo Carmo. How's Cordarrelle still available? Yes. I would drop Claypool. I'd drop Claypool of that list. Allen Robinson's not far from, though. Tony Jones droppable or continue to hold? Well, he's hurt now, Francisco. I would go for Damien Williams absolutely over Tony Jones. And yes, Tony Jones is droppable. He's going to be out for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So yes, I dropped him a couple weeks ago. I wish he had caught that show. PPR, I think I'd have to Sermon. He had 19 touches last game. TDs will come. Yeah, so I guess so. Yeah, I mean, but might be Jeff Wilson, though. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be Jeff Wilson's show when he comes back. No, I think you do drop Theo. I think you have to drop Claypool for Cordarrelle. Cordarrelle's been too damn good. And that sucks. AB and Cooper, yeah. You've had such a stacked receiver core, and they're all hurt. That's brutal. My backs are Cook, Sermon, Davis, Collins, and Carter. Yeah, that's bad. Need a lot of help, and no one's trading backs. Yeah, backs is a premium commodity these days, Michael Schneider. Kamara's on the trade block. Yeah, so, I mean, see how much it is, but if it's too high, too high. How much fab would you drop for Patterson? Have Pitts. He'd be a flex for me. Oh, I would drop 50. I would drop most of my, 50% or higher, Joe. I would make sure to go get him. I'd much rather have him than Pitts at this point. Gaskin or my one-legged uncle rest of the season. I'll go with the uncle. But less known product. Let's go with the upside there. The one-legged uncle, Teddy Jennings. Fuck Gaskin. 30 of touches last week. Useless. He's cuttable at this point. Khalil Herbert time with Monty out. I mean, Dylan, it's not a bad name to toss out there. I think it is Damien Williams time, but he did get a thigh bruise. He gets dinged up pretty quick. So I think Herbert is if you have the room to stash, very intriguing. I love that rookie. Very, very intriguing in my opinion. Who in my flex, Connor, Green, or Murray? Oh, that's always on the matchup here. I think Connor's a touchdown beast, but as soon as you put him in, he's going to get 40 yards and nothing. I'd probably go Lat Murray here, but I don't know the matchups again. Juan, come back tomorrow. Your uncle. Yeah, I agree. Definitely the uncle, Denny Jennings. Pick up James Cotter or Patterson first? Patterson for sure for me, Theo. Montgomery. Yeah, I go Patterson though. As soon as you trust Connor, he's going to shit his pants on you. Who am I flex? Connor, Green, or Kittle? I'd probably go Kittle there. And Jimmy, Justin Jefferson for Brandon Cooks and D-Hop. I'll take the Cooks and D-Hop. I think D-Hop and Jefferson are very similar. So then you get a Brandon Cooks who's, he had a dudless last week, but beforehand was leading the NFL in air yards, leading the NFL in targets. Definitely intriguing. Appreciate it, brother. Passing just worries me. I mean, it's so efficient, but why does that worry you? Because even if the efficiency comes down, you have to imagine a team that he's their best playmaker by far. We see that touches come up. I think they just kind of meet in the middle. No, he's not going to be getting 30 points a game, but I'm in there. I'm in there big. Time for me to try and probably running back. Good luck. Yeah. And maybe go for Damien Harris. He might be doable at this point because he's kind of sucked a few weeks in a row. But there's sneaky usage trends that tell you this guy could blow up in a few. Go Bo Sox. Hell yeah. Denny Jennings. I love it. Absolutely go Bo Sox. Lobo. What's up, Tomas from Panama? Good to see you. Cobb over Ayuk for this weekend. If you're going to start one, it probably is Cobb for me. Ayuk's kind of, I don't want to cut him. I want him on my bench, but it's kind of bench till I see it consistently at this point. Jeremiah, Bateman is available. Do I drop Harris? RB's my strength. As we're seeing people clamor for running backs on here, like trade someone first and then go pick him up. You don't want to drop Harris. I'm telling you, I think Harris down these next few weeks, easy schedule, finally run heavy scripts, and he's running more routes than he ever has. I really think Harris is going to be one of those guys. Would love to buy low on him. I think he's got a lot of upside moving down. Depending on Akers and ETN and Dynasty, worth trading, tough injuries to recover from. Dylan, how do I know, right? Exactly. You say, do I have some magical wisdom to see in the future how they're going to recover from their injuries? Big risk, but if you're in a rebuild and like you can get them for on the cheap, not a bad play, but no clue how those guys are going to recover. I would say I prefer Akers. Like I don't want to touch the Jags until, I guess Urban Meyer's really forcing his way out of there as fast as he can with these lap dances. Jeez. I'd much rather have Akers, but they're both intriguing in my opinion. Fitz. The QBs. That is awful. Yeah, remember Oberts. You got to tell me who you start every week because I will never start that guy. Awful. That's like the worst luck I've ever seen, man. He's owned by a Pats fan. Yeah, I guess that makes it a little bit try. Trade Carson ASAP if you can. I would. I've got 3 QBs, and that's not necessary. No, it's not necessary at all. I would drop Heinicke. I mean, you could drop Fields and Tannehill. And then just pick one up and stream them if you need to for Heinicke. But yeah, you don't need those 3 guys by any means more. Not at all. Like, yeah, please over Harris. Come on, Jeremiah. You got to cut 2 quarterbacks before you would cut Damien Harris. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you again so much. Awesome interaction. Again, week 5 waivers, lots of juicy stuff out there. So make sure before you get into this baseball game or during the baseball game, you're peppering your fab. Get these guys. Lots of juicy picks. Rewind it if you missed it. Again, thumbs up if you caught the replay, you liked what you heard. Would greatly appreciate likes and subscriptions, as well as that bell so you know when we're live. But thank you again so much for being here, Wolfpack. Hope you found this valuable, and I hope you win based on these pickups. Until next time, in a world full of fancy sheep, guys, be that wolf. See you tomorrow for week 5 rankings at 7 p.m. Eastern time.